Today we're going to start working on the RAC, Results, Analysis, and Conclusion portion of our internal assessment. We're not going to work on the whole thing today. We're just going to work on gathering raw data. So I'm going to click on the RAC link on our internal assessment page here. Look at our instructions here. I'm going to outline the whole thing for you today, although we're not going to do it all. We're going to start off today. Our major goal is to gather raw data. Typically, raw data is presented in a single table. Typically, you'd like to do a 5 by 5, but for most of you working with databases, we'll try and do a lot more data than that. Sometimes data can be qualitative, that is, it can be descriptive. Most of your data today will be numerical. And I suggest to you, by the way, that if you are gathering data which is qualitative, try and switch it to some sort of numerical scale, even if you have to make one up, because that'll be easier later on when we process it. So that's going to be our goal for today. Later on, we'll get to the next portions of the RAC. That is, you'll take your data and you'll process it. It's then presented in other tables. Typically, processing will be averages, standard deviations, graphs, things like that. And then you'll do the last part, some sort of statistical analysis, and we'll talk later on about what those sort of tests would be. So let's go back here and let's look at our template, see where we are so far. So we did our context, we did our planning last time. We are now up to the results analysis and conclusion. Like I said, I don't think many of you will have qualitative data. Pictures are nice if you do have them. But I'd like us to try and do the raw data table today. Hey, I just want to remind you, by the way, that when you do tables, even like you do figures, they should be numbered, table 1, table 2, and so forth, and they should have titles on them. We want to be careful about having labels and correct significant figures. If you're going to go ahead and just copy and paste data, that's fine. But if you are writing it in there, make sure you have the correct number of significant figures. So last time I said that I would prefer that you guys not do experiments, and instead you do either a simulation, a survey, or a database. If you're doing a simulation, I have a list here of some simulations you can try. Most of these are biology ones, so they're probably not applicable for you guys. We have had some that were listed in our ESS course guideline. For example, the ecological footprint simulation, the water usage simulation. I think we also had a carbon footprint. Those are all fine. If you're going to go ahead and do a survey, you would probably like to design a survey. My recommendation is that you use some sort of online survey form. There's so many of them. Google has one. And once you set it up there, you can just have as many people as possible. Go ahead and do it. Automatically gather your data. I'm sure you could probably use our class as guinea pigs, or you could just use your friends to go ahead and gather your data. But most of you are going to go ahead and use a database. There are so many databases on the internet, but I have a list here of very common ones. It's a pretty long list. You can take a look through here and see if any of them strike your fancy. I just want to show you a couple of them really quickly, though. Let's take a look at the World Bank database. So it comes up default set for population. There's our world population increasing as time goes on. Total population, yeah. What are we up to right now? Almost 8 billion people. You can go down here and it gives you automatically the information for every country. So that'd be an easy table to put together. You can switch to population male, female, and so forth. If you don't want to work with population, let's go all the way down to the bottom there. You can go ahead and choose other things. For example, I could use what is the middle income level. That might be an interesting thing. I'll switch it over here, middle income level, and so we could go ahead and choose various countries. And Albania, Algeria tells you what the most recent data is in thousands and so forth. And you can go ahead and select any data you want. You can see middle income is here. I could go back to the population if I wanted to. All sorts of things I could find. Break it up male, female, and so forth. We could go back down again. I could choose something else. Oops, I think in order to choose something else, I need to go back to the default page, which was population. Let's get rid of the income here. Go back to population. Choose another one here. Oh, I could look at areas too of the world if I didn't want to just... so a lot of you were doing North America. That might be kind of nice. And look at countries in North America. Very good. Easy way to do it. So that's one database you could use. Let's close this one out here. Another database that's very, very common in ESS and IB biology classes is HDI. This means Human Development Index. It's kind of a catch-all term. Let's take a look at it for a moment. Human development data pretty much has to do with how good life is in a particular place. That may be how long do people live. It may be what their standard of living is, income. It may be their health, their education, and so forth. And so you can go here to Data Center. Let's suppose I wanted to do HDI. I'll go ahead and click that. And then you can see it comes up here. Here's all countries right away. But I could go ahead and just look at, let's suppose I just wanted to look at Arab countries. And you can see then there's Qatar, Kuwait, all the information I want, life expectancy, amount of schooling, gross national income, and so forth. If I didn't want to scroll through the whole thing one by one, I could just go ahead and download the latest HDI data set. Let's take a look at the data set here. Comes up in Excel, and there's all our information that we could want. Get rid of this for a second. Life expectancy, what the HDI level is. Hey, by the way, who's the highest? Switzerland. Wow, they're the highest. Okay. Wonder where the United States is. Lots of good data on this guy here. Let's close this out. Let's look at the World Health Organization site for a moment. That's another very useful database. Let's look at countries. How about I'm just going to look at the Americas. So let's click on the Americas, right? And then what can I find as far as that? Oh, look, I can find pandemic information. A lot of you have been doing studies on that for your research questions. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Pandemic information. And it tells me how many cases are going here. Let's look at, how about daily reported data? That sounds good. And it tells me country by country how many cases of COVID there have been and how many deaths. So that could be a very useful database also. You can go on and on and on, but I'll let you guys do that for yourselves. Okay, so our goal today is to gather enough data to put together a raw data table. And next time what we'd like to do is go ahead and process the data. Once again, if you are not using a database, today's assignment for you is to try and put together a survey or a simulation where you can go ahead and gather that data.